Great to be in Idaho.
What brings you to Idaho, by the way?
Oh, you know, Governor Otter actually came to EPA headquarters last March, and we had a wonderful meeting, and he talked about the importance of cooperative federalism, and that's something that I've been very focused upon, meaning that the states have a very important role to play with the feds as it relates to environmental issues. And the permitting program in Idaho had taken root yet. And the state had been working a number of years to get the permitting program in our Clean Water Act. And we're announcing that today. So the last year we've been working on that with the governor and the state and the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, and this is what should happen. States and the federal government working together to improve air and water quality at the local level, as opposed to this top-down, federal bureaucratic approach that we've seen over the last several years.
As you know, in the West, people are so fearful of the EPA, the BLM, but since the president has come in, brought you in, it's a different game.
Yeah, I mean, look, yesterday the president celebrated his 500th day in office, and you look over the last 500 days at the true change that's taken place across the country with respect to the EPA, and you mentioned Interior. No longer are we displacing states, no longer are we displacing private property owners. We understand that this is about partnership. Regulations, we've reduced regulations, over 22 regulations in the first 500 days, $1 billion in savings to the American economy, $1 billion. In Trump administration entirely, $8 billion. So the president has made good on his promise to reduce the regulatory burden on the economy. But here's what's really important, Kevin. Environmental outcomes are improving. Air quality is improved. Water quality is improving. Superfund sites, those sites that are some of the most egregious across the country, are being cleaned up. So we're making progress on the environmental outcomes at the same time that we're reducing the burden, the regulatory burden on American citizens.
How do you overcome the overwhelming media narrative? Everything is horrible. The economy is great. Business is fired up. We have this counter narrative, and thankfully the president was elected, Administrator Pruitt. Thankfully you're in office to make sure we're getting things put into proper perspective, partnerships instead of dictatorships. Yeah. But how do you fight that every day?
Well, by doing things like this. I mean, I hit 35 states across the country, and you're exactly right last year. And you're exactly right, there's optimism all over the country. These kinds of interactions where I meet with stakeholders, governors, but also industry and private property owners, we ended the Waters of the United States rule. We ended the Clean Power Plan. Though, those overreaching efforts of the past administration, the president got us out of Paris. There's been such tremendous change that is so different than the past administration, and people are optimistic and I think very much looking forward to the future because of being about jobs and growth, but also good environmental outcomes.
Well, and we talk about the balance between taking care of the environment and taking care of the American people, and we go back to how coal was vilified and other industries were vilified under the former administration. How did you spend 8 years under Obama?
Isn't that something, though, yeah. to declare a war on a sector of your economy? Right? A war on coal is what the past administration did. I was the first administrator in history, Kevin, to go underground in a coal mine. I was in Pennsylvania within the first month or so of being in office, and went 1,000 feet down, 3 miles in, and it was quite something. But I share with those long wall miners in Pennsylvania that the war on coal was over, and you should have seen the emotion in their faces. I mean, when you power an electric grid in this country, and you eradicate or take away coal, which the past administration endeavored to do, that creates more instability, creates more cost to consumers across the country. It affects the economy and how it grows. And so the president, recognized that we shouldn't pick winners and losers through regulatory action. The job of a regulator is to make things regular for everyone, not to pick winners and losers in the energy mix. And so that's what's, I think, such a change with this administration, and people see it all over the country.
EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt with us, KIDO Talk Radio, 580 AM, 107.5 FM. We talk about the coal industry, but sir, you went down into that mine. What was that like? And you have these noble, hardworking Americans doing that every day, and to have war declared on them by the Obama administration.
I mean, well said, and you spent time in that part of the country, and you know that those blue-collar, hard-working Americans were under assault. The agency for the last several years has been weaponized, Kevin, against certain sectors of our economy. It wasn't just coal. We saw this in other sectors as well. Natural gas has been added, fossil fuels generally. And what's interesting about all this is that we actually have our CO2 footprint in this country was reduced by almost 20% from the years 2000 to 2014. And recent study, additional percentage, 2%, over the last couple of years. So you see tremendous effort being made. Our pollution that we regulated in the Clean Air Act, down almost 75% since the inception of the Clean Air Act. while at the same time the GDP of this country has grown 270+%. I mean, this is a story that's seldom told. You know, the great work, Americans get it. They're good stewards of the environment, but they want to see jobs and growth. And the president sent a message to Pennsylvania and those kinds of folks in that sector of the economy and said, look, the days of the EPA picking winners and losers, of declaring a war on you, are over. And we're going to make sure we do our business within the statute, within the rule of law, respect process, and engage in cooperative federalism, which is why I'm here in Idaho today.
Indeed, let's talk a little bit about Idaho and the West. You know, we feel powerless a lot. We have great representation in Congress, but sometimes the West seems to be forgotten. Not with this administration, not with you, sir.
No, look, I mean, think about the Waters of the United States rule. I talked to the governor about that last year. Your senators, I spent time talking to them about it as well. That was not an issue of water quality. It was an issue of power, land use across this country, where dry creek beds and puddles and ephemeral drainage ditches were declared waters in the United States, meaning that for you to use your land, you had to go get permission from the EPA in Washington, D.C. That's just simply wrong, Kevin. And so this president, February of last year, issued an executive order. President Trump said, end that, and we began the process of that within 10 minutes of him issuing that executive order. And here we are in 2018. That Waters of the United States rule will go away. It will restore balance with respect to those issues and issue a new definition that respects the confines of the Clean Water Act, but also, you know, the role of states and private property owners. So that when I think about the West and private property owners and land use and how the BLM and Interior and the EPA over the last several years has tried to take away decision-making rights of folks in this part of the country, this president is returning that and recognizing that they care. I mean, the greatest thing, wealthy countries take care of the environment, Kevin. You know, private property owners, the greatest asset they have is their land. They want to take care of the water quality of their land. So to not recognize that and then have this very oppressive approach to say we're going to make decisions in your behalf, that's the antithesis of the attitude here in Idaho. It's the opposite of the great western frontier that we know as a country, and we're restoring that commitment.
Two final questions for you. Number one more time, you're in Idaho today to meet with Governor Otter. 500 days of the Trump administration. Time certainly has flown.
It has. It has. And look, I mean, great consequential actions for the last 500 days. And there's tremendous change coming even this year. I mentioned the Clean Power Plan. You know, the overreach of the past administration, that's being withdrawn this year. Permitting at the agency, I made a commitment last year that by the end of 2018, Kevin, every permit that we decide upon at the EPA will be done within 6 months. They didn't know how long it was taking before we arrived. So we see great change as far as structure and process, rulemaking, cost savings, environmental outcomes to the positive. It's very exciting to be serving at this time.
Well, you don't catch that in the media. Finally, what's it like to serve the president, to be there, to be a part of this historic administration? You speak with him one-on-one. That's something most of us will never know, sir.
He is. He's very empowering. And what I love about the president's leadership is he's about results. I believe he's in the White House for two primary reasons today. One, he's a man of courage. And two, he's a man of action. And I think the American people want both. They want substantial change. And you know, people in D.C. are obviously distraught because they want the status quo. But under the past administration, they benefited. The rest of the country suffered. And this president is focused upon putting America first and making a change for all Americans, and it's happening right before our eyes.
Sir, we appreciate you coming in today.
Good to see you, Kevin.